You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. And what a delight it is to see the lovely Rochelle Fisher, founder of Dental Assisting and Beyond, back in the studio again. Welcome, Rochelle.
Thank you for having me, Julie. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm excited to hear where things are at with you. You've had a change of location for a start. You used to be down here in Melbourne. Now you've jetted up to Queensland.
Yes, I now reside on the wonderful Sunshine Coast. I just couldn't do another Melbourne winter. So I say that with a very Northern English accent. Can't do another winter. Well, I just thought there's a reason why I moved to Australia from England, and it was for sunshine. So we decided to hit the road back in March. And here we are in Queensland, but I'm still working all over Australia. So I've already been back to Melbourne last month and Adelaide, and then I'm in Sydney next week. So, yeah.
Gosh, you're still hanging around the traps. That's fantastic. And for people who have not listened to your previous episode on the program, give us a very quick snapshot of what you do for the industry.
I am a dental nurse, and I realised there was a massive gap in the market, especially in Australia, that so many dentists were going on implant courses, and that's amazing that they are available in more or less every practice now in Australia. However, the rest of the team were getting left behind. So I have 25 years of experience, but 20 years of experience in surgical, oral surgeon and maxillofacial surgery. So, and a lot of implant reconstruction. So I decided to make Dental Assisting and Beyond to educate the rest of the dental team on surgical implant techniques, and not just the in-surgery stuff, the actual clinical part, but everything that surrounds that, the paperwork, the sterilization, the maintenance, how we talk to patients. And so, there's lots of different packages now available.
It's such a team effort thing to make sure that these more complex treatments with many more steps than the standard, a filling and root canal therapy, that the whole team is involved. And I know that when I've, over the years, I used to call myself a dental nurse. That used to be what they were called back in the day. And then I slowly started to move more to the dental assistant, because being called a dental nurse is really indicating that I've got a higher level of education than what I actually do. I certainly went through and got my Cert 3, like a lot of dental assistants do. But tell us more about over in England, for example. You are a dental nurse and you've got specific training around that registration, CPD points, all the things, don't you?
Yes. So in England, and they actually only changed the legislation and the rules to it in 2005. So you could go on a volunteer register before that. So it was that grey area of dental nurse, dental assistant. But when I qualified, it said dental nurse on my qualification. And in 2005, then that's when they changed it and said every nurse, every dental assistant nurse in England has to be fully qualified, unless you've done it for something like 10 years and then you went on what was called a grandparenting system, so they just let you move into it. And with that everyone had to be qualified. You had to be registered with the General Dental Council of England, and then you would have to have indemnity cover. Sometimes it would be covered under your dentist, or you would have your own. Most practices did like an indemnity cover for the full practice. And then you had to have CPD. And at first, they've reduced the hours now. But when I first did it, it was 150 hours over 5 years, but they're very specific with viable and non-viable. And then they had the core subjects as well, that you had to have so many hours in, like cross-infection and first aid. And that's a really interesting thing when you asked about that, because there's so much CPD in England for dental nurses, because we have to have it as part of our registration. And because we don't have to have it here, and even the front desk, because a lot of the front desk staff will nip in and do a little bit of, assisting on lunch breaks and things. So really everyone in the practice was needing to have some form of registration. But over here, people just, unless you're a dentist or an OHT or a hygienist, you don't get any CPD.
There's nothing really available, is there?
Nothing available. So with my course, it's actually for dentists and hygienists as well. So everyone in the practice can be fully informed about implants. And I was training at a lovely practice in South Australia last week, and the hygienist came and she said, I really don't know what to say to patients, so I need the verbal skills for that. And then they get CPD as well. So, it's a win-win situation for them.
And certainly the person that wins out most of all is the patient, because they've got every hand that goes into their management, from discussion, setting up procedure, moving through the procedure, post-op procedures, all the things, that's all coming from a place of high education.
Exactly. Yeah. And teamwork. Something that really is lost at the minute in the dental world is that teamwork approach. And I know sometimes for a lot of practices it is, and I'm saying this because I've worked like you in practices for many years, so I'm not coming in saying, oh, you need to do this, being very unrealistic, because I know sometimes we only get 15 minutes for lunch. However, it's one day of training your team that's going to save you hours of, oh, we should have done this, or why are we not doing this, or things, not going to plan. But I do understand in a lot of practices, it's so tricky to have that one day of closing.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I want to go into the couple of processes that you go through, what the offerings that you have. So dental practices are really clear about it. But I think it's worthwhile us just staying in this space just for a little bit, because sometimes this is the barrier right now. Oh, yes, I need Rochelle, but we can't afford to close for a day or half a day, or my team may not be engaged in the learning process, or there's a financial cost element to it, or we're always so busy already, we don't have time for anything else. And so this is definitely a space that you and I share a lot of the same stories, because when I go in with Amina to train teams, these are the same kind of barriers that we need to get over. We have dental practice owners coming to us, my team, I'd like them to perform differently in some way, or an individual team member, I'd like them to perform differently in some way. In that case, we need to train them. Oh, we have no time for training. And it's one of the biggest challenges that we have. So it deserves that bigger picture thinking, because we're never going to get the time, unless we allocate it, to train team members, because look at the structure of dental practices. They're much like law firms in that every moment is accountable. We either are having a patient in the chair, or we have got a designated lunch break, or we go home. We don't have any slush time, or I don't know if that's the right term, but we don't have any downtime where we can say, oh, team training, that's where we can put those couple of hours that we always have free on a Friday to good use.
But wouldn't that be like the ideal dental world of saying that let's have so many days a year that we allocate to the full team, and I know, again, there's this barrier of, oh, but my staff all change. But, let's just push that aside. And wouldn't it be nice to say 4 times a year, we're going to do team training. That's closing your practice for 4 days, or even opening it up on a Saturday or something. I do Saturday and Sunday trainings, because I won't let that be an excuse.
I think that is such a beautiful idea, Rochelle. I honestly do, because 4 days a year doesn't actually sound that much to me at the moment.
No.
However, if you say you're shutting down one of the days next week, that feels too overwhelming and the cost is too high in time, energy, and money. And so recognizing the enormous benefits, and they're so obvious, we hardly even have to say what they are when we are talking about providing skills training, skills development in your team. Your practice will definitely run more efficiently,
Yes.
run more productively.
Yes.
There'll be far reduced stress. Your patients will see the difference when you are incorporating not just clinical training, but communications training, rapport building training, all those sort of things as well. Having team member training on how to get along well with each other and have effective communication. All of these things, there is not one piece of training that you'll get nothing from. And they talk about a closed mindset or a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And, you know, the fixed mindset being, oh no, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to learn how to do it. I'm not going to be learning how to do it. This is the way I am. And the growth mindset, of course, is that you can go to a training process and you can go, oh, I've heard that, I've heard that, I've heard that. But hearing it again has helped me understand how it can make me grow, or I haven't heard that thing before, and so I'm going to drag that bit out and learn like crazy about that thing. And when we are looking at dental team recruitment being such a challenge at the moment, and so therefore I've been doing a lot of reading about how to keep a great team happy and what attracts a certain team member to working in a particular location, one of the biggest things is the opportunity for further training. People want to get better.
Yeah. And that growth mindset as well, like you said, it's a great thing to be in, but also I have a lot of practices that say, well, we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. It's like, but how do you know if no one's trained you in implants? And then there's this new thing that's come up every time I've been to a practice of, I've kind of asked that question, who trained you? You know, it's like, oh, when I was at this practice, but it really is like Chinese whispers. So like you said, even if you sit there and you just, yes, I am doing that right. I am doing that right. And Tina from, you know, the dental practice down the road who told me, oh, she was right. You know, and all those things. So I just think, yeah, I do think 4 times a year, if you started in December or when you're prepping your books for the next year and said, right, 4 times this year, we'll close our books on either a Monday or a Friday, or do 2 Mondays and 2 Fridays. And not that day that the dentist goes golfing. Or, you know, when people are on holiday, but when everyone's there. And then again, like you said, create this really wonderful team approach. Like, how can we be better as a team?
And that really does. If you put that in your advertising for new team members, you will attract people who want to grow, who want to improve themselves. And that's exactly what you want to fill your team with, that people who value growth and development. So that is one of the biggest things I'm taking out of this episode, Rochelle, is to encourage dental practices to say, nominate a number of days a year, and 4 is good. Do 1 a quarter, 1 full day a quarter, and just recognize the enormous benefits that the practice is going to move through once you start committing to that.
Yeah, and even like if you block them out at the start of the year, you know, you don't have to be booking Septembers in January, because and like you and I as trainers will always find and make the time, because we're like, of course we want to come and educate your practice. Let me move everything. It's like,
we do. We're ultra flexible.
And I will help you. And then, you know, if you have got a team that seems very reliable and have been there a while, asking them what they want. You know, do you want to learn more about implants and surgical techniques and how we can be better as a team together? Or do we want to bring Julie in and have a big practice team day, and how can we help the managers? And, you know, just different businesses, so they don't have to block it and then book everyone in. They can be asking the team, and again, that brings value and you feel appreciated. Oh, they're asking me what I want to learn.
Yeah, that's right. It's making me think about when Dr. Roz Franklin was on the program. You're a big fan as well. So Ros Franklin teaches infection control to dental teams. And infection control, we have a set of guidelines. This is a bit of example, talking about what you were saying before, that, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. We have a set series of guidelines that this is the way we do things. They're very, very specific. There's no room there for alternative ways of thinking. This is just the way you're supposed to do infection control. Mm-hmm. And she will go into a dental practice environment and get one of the nurses to go through the room changeover and the sterilisation of a tray. And she said, what the most common words I hear from the others who are observing that, they are things like, oh, I don't do it that way. I do it another way. And so even within the same team, quite often you'll have discrepancies between each team member and what they're doing. And it is like Chinese whispers. Mm. And I think it's like Chinese whispers, then our own interpretation on top of that of what we see as important and efficient and easy enough to get through for the day as well. So it is a space that can start to diminish in its high level of sterility or high level of productivity in that space. Mm. But when you're talking about implant work, when everything needs to be just right, because otherwise we start impacting the success rate that we're expected to achieve with that implant, this is super important to have everyone doing the same thing the same way.
Exactly. And even on the front desk, they're the one that when the patient calls, if there has been a problem, if there is an infection, or if they're just a new patient and want to know more about implants, you need as much information as the person, in the sterilisation room. And we break down all that. I love to liken it as the Australian Olympic relay team.
Yeah.
And the patient is the baton, a beautiful baton.
Lovely baton.
And if we're on the same team and I'm passing it to you and then you drop this baton, instead of this being the blame culture of, oh, Julie dropped the baton. Of course, Julie dropped it,
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Is it like, okay, guys, Julie's dropped this baton, but was it Rochelle passing her the baton, the information that I gave her? Is that why she dropped it? What are these things? Let's, instead of it being this blame culture, let it be this like success. Let's help each other to be successful, to strive in this area. So I love to, and I talk a lot about this relay and passing the baton, especially with implants as well, because patients are investing so much time, effort and money into this. Yeah. That as soon as something isn't going to plan, you need those people reassuring them, saying, okay, it hasn't gone to plan, but we've just got to have this one more step and everything will be fine. And that reassurance.
That's for sure. And it takes a lot of, why do implant patients choose a particular practitioner to get that work done? It's because there's a high level of trust. They see that person as the authority and they're very likable too. I think we need to like the practitioners because we can find a trusted authority in many different practices, but we only want to get it done with you guys because we feel that you and your team are going to really look after me. And that is such a team effort.
And it is. It's again, this team thing. And I used to work with Dr. Larry Benge, who does so many all-on-4s. And he is amazing at surgery. He's amazing at what he does. But what Larry has is he has an amazing team around him. Everyone in his team know what they're doing, when they're doing it. They all know how to speak to the patients. The journey, call it, the patient's journey. It's a beautiful one. And why? Because he's invested in his staff to train them properly and educate them in what they're doing, And
so, actually, when we look at how to be more successful in any area, one of the proven ways to become more successful is look at someone who's already been doing it super, super well and gaining great success and model your behavior on them. And so if the Larry Benges out there are really investing time, energy, money into training their team members then maybe that's a really great leaf to take out of his book for other practices.
Yeah. I model my calendar from yours because it's Julie's like the most organised person in the world when it comes to the calendar.
The only way to get lots of stuff done every day. I love it. That and not having any children around me to distract me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you've got a couple of programs that I want to talk about to you. One is the 6-week online program and one is the 12-month online. Is the 12-month online as well?
It's hybrid, is the 12-month.
Hybrid. So which one would you like to talk about first? I want to get some more juicy details for people out there listening.
I'll talk about the 6-week one just because we've been talking about this time thing. You know, there's always an excuse in the dental practice, and well, there's not enough time, and well, you know, we'd like her to do it, but she'll be in Bali this week, or, you know, she can't do it then. So I found that last year, that's the sort of feedback I was getting from a lot of practices. We just can't close the practice, you know, or the principal won't close the practice for a full day. So the 6 weeks came off the bat of me doing the 12-month surgical support program, because that is hybrid. So there is some elements online. And I was very resistant at first to doing an online program because I love meeting people in person and I love going to the dental practices and seeing where everything is. And I'm a real people's person. But then after I'd done a few online, I'm like, and I think we'd had a conversation about this. I'm like, I quite like this online thing. I can see how it works. So I now offer a 6-week, and it's more of like either an introduction or to make sure that the team feel that they're doing, well, not feel, but they're doing everything to the best of their ability. And
no, it's like a refresher.
Yeah, refresher. And again, I can tailor make it to the practice. So if they need it simple and basic, and it's a new practice that's going into place implants, or a practice that has been doing implants a long time and would just like a refresher. So we do a 90-minute once a week online. So the first one is like hand hygiene and cross-infection, but cross-infection around implants, you know, what do we put in the autoclave? What do we not? How do we clean the drills, or when do we change them? You know, how do we look after the equipment? And then there's a section on start to finish. So again, if you were a new practice, it'd be a very simple one. If it was a practice that had been needing more refresher and doing complex stuff, then it'd be more an advance of like, what happens when things don't go to plan? Have you got X, Y, and Z?
Ooh, that'd be an interesting one, an important one.
I actually did that a few weeks ago, and one of the dentists who was on it said his principal dentist came in and they found it interesting and learned things. So I was like, yay!
See, everyone can learn from this space. Yay! I love it.
They just do theirs on a Friday lunchtime at 12 o'clock. And so they have an hour and a half. And I think the dentist probably orders pizza or something, you know, and then they just listen to me. And then the recording off as well. So if they're not there to watch it, then at least they can re-watch it. So,
and I tell you what, these recordings are so crucial. We do think to ourselves, I was actually there. I don't need to listen to the recording or watch the recording again. And I tell you what, this is one of those sort of recordings that it's probably a good idea that you watch it once a year, because it's just like reading a book. You can read a self-development book and get lessons from that you apply to your life and gain great success with those areas. But then if you ever go, that was a very enjoyable book, I really did get a lot out of it, I'm going to read it again. It's been 5 years or 10 years since I read it. I'm going to read it again. And what happens when you read it again? You find a whole bunch of other stuff that kind of went in one ear and out the other the first time, because our brains can only hold on to and consciously think about a certain number of things. And in actuality, when I was doing research around communication and listening skills, there was, I think it was Edward Allan Poe had said, I'm going straight from memory here, the one, not con, but the wrong assumption that's made around communication is that it's actually happened. And when, with one of your training programs, for example, what percentage of information would you assume the dental team members take away with them? It's actually between 25 and 50%. So more than half often they don't really grasp in that moment, because we can only absorb so much information in one hit. So repetition also leads to learning, because we get to rehear and reprocess the information again and again. So getting those recordings is awesome.
Yeah. And with the recordings as well, Julie, I also get the PDF slides that I've done and I send them to the practice as well. If people want to take notes, great. But if you're sat there taking notes, like you said, you're not processing and listening to everything. Yeah. So I just say, don't worry about the notes, because I'll send you a recording of what we've talked about, and I'll also send you all the PDF slides so you can refer back to that while you're watching the recording. So
fantastic.
Everyone learns a little bit differently. Some people just want to look at the slides again and read certain parts. So that's the 6-week one. That I'm hoping lots of dental practices are going to go, we should do that.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea to me. I got to tell you, Rochelle.
Just say my lovely house on the Sunshine Coast. I do like going around Australia. So that's the 6-week one. And like I said, I did it to, can we say accommodate practices?
Yeah.
But yeah, accommodate practices for if they need to do it in the morning, if they need to do it on a night, lunchtime, so they're allowed, and that's just for their practice. So they're allowed to pick the time that works for them for these 6-week live viewing. And then there's a few choices of which seminars they'd like to go through.
Great.
Yeah.
You've also got a 12-month program.
Yeah, so I have a middle one, which is the day one, which we won't talk about today. And then I have a 12-month surgical support program. And again, this can be from a practice that has just started out and really need the fully support of a year, or practices that are very advanced and doing implants and all-on-4 procedures every day, that just want to make sure they're just ironing out those little creases. And so I do 2 on-site visits per year. So that's 2 full days. So I'll come to the practice. Again, you can tailor make that to your needs. The first time I like to normally come out and do a full day training with all the team, find out where everyone's at. It might be a stock problem that they're having, or it might be more of an assisting and understanding the drill componentry, or the girls on the front desk really getting the verbal skills, or the hygienist saying, I don't know what to say to patients. Yeah. And just having this really lovely team day. And then I get to know them and build a rapport with them as well. And then they get the bi-monthly 6 online a year. So instead of them doing once a week for 6 weeks, we do it every other month for the entire year. And they're normally on a Tuesday and a Friday. So again, the practices can pick which one they want to do. And then the other thing we always get is, my staff always leave. So we have a 4 new staff onboarding, or 4 staff refresher. So they'll get a 90-minute one-on-one with me. So if it's a new staff that's just come in, doesn't know anything about implants, I'll chat to them and run through the basics. Or if it's someone that's done them for years, we'll just have a chat and make sure we're on the same page. So again, it's this, we've got new staff, but we've not got the time to train them. So then they can just pass them over to me, and I can train them for 90 minutes or refreshers if they need to.
That's really valuable, because there is tending to be a bit of a staff changeover in practices at the moment with this recruitment issue that we've all got going on. So I think a lot of people will be thrilled to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's just a nice way, and again, for that practice to say, when you join us, we're doing this program at the minute. Don't worry too much. You can catch up with the ones that we have, because it's all online and recorded. And also Rochelle will run through an introduction with you as well. So, and with that, because we won't talk about this today, but I do have a health and wellness section, because I'm also a yoga teacher. So we do some yoga classes online as well within the 12-month package. So it's a real big all-rounder. And then I'll go in the practices again. So we'll normally do like an on-site visit at the start, and then more or less at the end of the year as well, and go in and check what they need as well. If they need me to go in and check more of the cross-infection side, or sit again with more of the front desk or the treatment coordinators. So yeah, I'm there really for 12 months to hold the hand all the way through.
That's so important and needed. I mean, there's one thing to go into a dental team and teach them how to do a thing, but it's once they're putting it into application, that's where the barriers come up to achieving success. And so to be able to constantly check in after that fact, saying, oh, now I'm having a trouble with this, or now I've overcome that, but now I've got a trouble with this, enormous for learning.
Yeah. And we all know, we go to a day course, everyone's like, that was great, we're going to do this. And yes, it's a bit like you go to a gym, you go to one trial at a gym day and you're like, yeah, I'm going to come back every day. I'm going to do this workout. I'm going to eat all this nutritional food. It's exactly kind of the same. And 2 weeks, you're kind of going back to your old little ways. And we've not really got time for doing that today. So even though we know we're meant to do it, we'll skip that. And before you know it, they're back in this old routine. So having that 12 months, it really does set them up for success, like your practice.
Yeah, that's right. Creating an environment for success. I love doing that. I love encouraging teams to do that. And indeed, we're talking about barriers to learning and providing team training for the team. And that is definitely a barrier. But we've all gone along to team training things in the past, but nothing actually ever gets implemented. And it's just because there's a step missing, a support step missing, because our brains are designed to go back into Groundhog Day, just into the stuff that we know how to do without thinking too much about it. If we had to think too much about every step every day, it would be exhausting. And so our bodies are wired that way, that we will go into routine rather than do anything new, because it takes energy and time and application and practice to get into the new routine. And so this is what you do and other trainers do. They provide that necessary support step. So no longer do you have the issue of we've trained the team, but nothing changes. Now we've trained the team and now we just keep getting better.
And I'll often get a list from a practice manager or a dentist or one of their head assistants a few days after saying, can you send me this checklist, that thing, this, that? And I'm like, yeah, I'll send you a checklist. I'll send you this protocol. Like, everything's there. This is what I'm here for, to help you go through. I can send you codes of the best surgical packs to buy and those kind of things. And you know what it's like sometimes in a dental practice trying to find a code for something, and you're spending an hour calling reps and searching for something. So I'll normally have most of those codes and things. So yeah, I'm just helping the practice out. I'm like the middleman.
I love it. I love it. And I love a good analogy. I've been trying to think of a good analogy. This is what I've come up with, but it may not be a good one. Because every team member does play their role. The receptionist, the dental assistant, the dental nurse, the practitioner, all these people, and the patient coordinator, if you've got patient coordinators, the sterilisation nurse, everyone has their role. And yes, everyone may be trained into their specific roles, just like building a house. The plumber knows how to do plumbing and the carpenter knows how to do carpentry, et cetera, et cetera. However, for everyone to work together, then you've got a house that works very well, that the plumbing isn't appearing visible on the walls because it's behind the walls, because the plumbing spoke to the carpentry people and the carpentry people spoke to the pool people, and therefore we've got proper fencing around the pool itself. It's kind of silly analogy, I think, but
no, do
you like it?
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think we can polish it a little bit, but I actually love it. You're right.
Yeah.
And you'll often, and we're talking to my dad and my brother were builders, and my brother was a plasterer, and, he's going to work on a Tuesday and he's like, I can't go in yet because the electrician's not finished what they're doing. So I've got to wait till Thursday now, but it's that communication.
Yeah. And to be able to have that level of communication, that ability for each role to understand how the other roles work, in order for us to be a well-oiled machine, that we are working all together, we're working individually, but together to produce this final result of a very successful clinical result and a very happy patient who wants to sing your praises everywhere. Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? We're wanting a happy patient, we're wanting a happy team as well, because if that team's not happy, then the patient feels it straight away. And the communication as well between front desk and the sterilisation area, because You'll have someone on the front desk that's not being well informed and just decides to book 4 or 5 implants in a general practice during the day, and they only have 2 kits. And then she's not told the Steri girl, and the Steri girl's new, and she doesn't know what to prioritize in these kits, So again, it's that morning huddles, that communication, and it's when I go into practices and saying, let's make a protocol, like you as a practice, make yourself a little protocol, this is how we do it here. And I liken a lot of practices, a good practice to McDonald's,
Yeah.
Because everyone, like you said, everyone in McDonald's or building a house, they know what they're doing. They know if they're on the desk that day. They know if they're flipping burgers in the back, and it is, even though I don't want to advertise McDonald's, but they have the best policies and protocols in the world.
Yeah.
And
they, in order to deliver a consistent result at a certain standard, and that's what we need to do in health, in dental. We need to be able to put everything in place, as many things as possible in place. So we take out the element of risk and surprise. And so we are creating predictable results.
Yeah. And I'm sure they train all their staff.
That's right. I'm pretty sure they do train all their staff, considering the fact they're all school kids and they don't know how to do those sort of things at all. I agree. But what business doesn't train their staff? I think when you do look at these larger organizations such as McDonald's and Google and this and that and all the people, I think that's right. They have got systems in place to make sure everyone is A, very aware of what success looks like, and B, know how to get there. Yeah. It is one of those thinking mindsets we need to try to break ourselves out of when we say that person's not performing, there must be something wrong with them. The minute someone, and I agree with, listen to Jesse Green's podcast, and he says often, and I completely agree with it, that he hasn't yet come across a team member that turns up to work every day thinking, gee whiz, I can't wait to do a bad job today and be told off for it. Can't wait. And it's absolutely true. A wild majority, 99% of team members out there come in with an attitude where they want to do a good job. They want to be appreciated for their role and contribute to their other team members, but they want to do a good job. So if they're not doing a good job in the eyes of the manager or the practice owner, what's missing? Either they don't know they're not doing a good job in their eyes, and so we need clarity around goals and what success looks like. But it means they need support of some kind, either support in helping overcome their barriers or support in terms of training and the implementation of that training as well. And so the minute anybody out there is finding themselves saying, that person's not doing the right thing, there must be something wrong with them, I've already told them 5 times how to do the thing, then go to the next step and say, well, what's the missing piece here? Let me go to that person and find out what it is. Yeah.
It's interesting. Last week when I did do a training session, one of the nurses, and they'd not done implants before, so it was a lot for them to take in, and they were doing the first implant the week after, but there was someone in the practice that had done them for years. But one of the girls said to me, I don't get paid enough to do this. And I stood and I looked at her for a second and I said, let's take money out of the equation right now. I said, your dentist has invested a full year in me coming to the practice and supporting you. Let's take the money out of it and let's see the education and the training that you are being given while you stand here and be paid. And it's like, we've got to change that mindset as well. I don't get paid enough for this. And it's like, but if they're investing in the training for you, they're paying in other ways as well to make sure you're educated, that you can write on your CV resume, that you do have experience, and your day's going to, like you said, your day's going to be better because you're like, wow, I've achieved this today.
And I think that's the space that they can't necessarily see straight away. Most of us do go to certain situations thinking, that what's in it for me, WIIFM, what's in it for me? And if you are not seeing the financial weekly pay packet as being enough of what's in it for me, then it's up to you as a person in leading your own personal life. You're the only one who gets to direct your life from this point forward. It's up to you to find the other value in that, because there's a certain pay packet, but then that's right, the education, I then get to put that on my resume and get another job, a better job one day, because I've got the benefit of all of this training. But another element, and Amina and I have been speaking a lot about this, there are 4 levels of customer service, and we'll talk about it. I think have I spoken about it on the podcast? I don't think I have. We'll talk about it in the podcast coming up. But in a very quick snapshot, there is unacceptable, of course. If you're so horrendously upset, you want to ring up the manager and say, those people were terrible. Then you've got basic, where they went ahead and they provided the service to you, but there was nothing special about it. You're probably not going to return for it, but you're not so upset about it that you're going to complain to anybody. Then we've got anticipated, and this is delivering a service. As consumers, we expect to be dealt with in a professional way and a friendly way. And when we achieve that, we are happy with that service. We will likely return for that service. If asked, we may provide a Google review, but if we're not asked, we probably won't provide a Google review, but we're totally satisfied. Then there's unanticipated customer service. This is where you experience service that is so extraordinary, so unanticipated, that you are ringing up the manager to say how awesome it was. You, by yourself, will go straight to a computer, Google review, these people are the best, and you will do a song and dance to your friends and family about it. They're the 4 levels of customer service. They relate directly to job satisfaction.
Yeah.
If you are delivering unacceptable customer service, you'll be resentful that you even need to work. That's your attitude. Why do I need to work for money? This is quite a pain up my ass. Then you've got basic. But with basic, you're just doing enough not to get fired. That's all. And so you've got quite an apathetic attitude to work. But when we start delivering anticipated customer service, which is what most places, most dental practices are delivering anticipated, we're very friendly, we're very professional, and you get job satisfaction, very good job satisfaction from that. But when those people say, well, I get paid enough for this, I need a bit more than this. When they start to practice unanticipated customer service, they start delivering things with the bells and whistles and the high energy and the high rapport and communication skills, and they go through the further learning so they can deliver consistently unanticipated, very special customer service. The result in job satisfaction is now you're passionate about your work. Now you can't wait to get out of bed every morning and go to that workplace and do your job. And that's what's in it for you. If the money's not going to do it for you, you do what is required. So you get that wonderful opportunity to bounce out of bed and say, you beauty, I get to go to work there again today and contribute to those patients and that team and that business.
And I feel worthy, like I'm doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
If everyone were you and I, Julie.
Oh, if only. If only, but they're not, Rochelle, so they have to learn from us. Pay for us to come in, close down the practice, learn from us. So, Rochelle, if practices do want to tap into you, they don't need to have, the groups are broad, whether they are thinking about implementing implants into their practice, and they don't currently do it at the moment. They're in the process of implementing implants into their practice. They've already done it and want refreshers and make sure that their whole team are doing consistently great things. You work with all of them.
Yes. Yeah. All of them. And I have to say, it's not just a draping course, because I think a lot of people go, oh, it's just a draping course. And then people do my course and dentists do it and they're like, oh, wow. I've learned so much today. So even dentists that are going on implant courses to learn how to do implant courses, this would be a really good thing for that practice to do.
Great.
Because then they go in, they see all the staff. I'll help them with the setups and things. And I know normally the reps are really good as well, but I'll help them with the surgical bundles and where to buy X, Y, and Z from, and where to place things when they're doing the surgery, and just be there to guide them through the first year. And, what consent forms and warranties and, sterilizing things, just everything that they're not learning at their practical implant course where they're going and seeing the patients. And I know they'll do the treatment planning and everything, but just all the other little areas around it.
There's many steps involved.
There's many. Yeah, just like building a house.
I love it. Coming back to the analogy that may work, may not work.
Yeah.
So if people want to be tapping into you as a resource, Rochelle, for their practice, what's their best next step?
Is to either go to my email, and my website, not my email, or go to my email. You'll find me on there. I am in the process of just putting some more information on my website. So if you can have a look at that, but then just email me and I can have a chat to you. So really a 30-minute call with myself on Zoom is a good way for me to find out where your practice is and what I can offer you and the best program for your practice.
Magnificent. Have we covered everything, Rochelle?
I think so. I think we've covered everything.
Because we've gone from dental and into construction as well, so it's been pretty broad.
Practices need more training.
That's it. So if you're a dental practice out there and you are either contemplating, in the process of, already established in your implant programs, you must reach out to Rochelle just to make sure you're covering all bases, to make sure the results that your patients and your practice are getting are the best results possible, and consistently doing that all the time. As always, thanks, Rochelle. I hope you come on again soon.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
You're glorious. I'll speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, then you should come along and join the club. The club is a whole library of lunch and learns, with new lunch and learns being produced all the time, that help your dental team gain greater success in your systems, in your team behaviours, in your patient management, in your patient engagement, in their treatment plans. They are usually around half an hour in length, and so team members can sit down, be paid for their lunch break, eat lunch while they're being inspired, and delivered all of these insights and strategies that can be implemented so you all achieve greater levels of success. Also, Amina and I, my buddy from Dental Management Expertise, have a company, Dental Business Mastery, together. And our flagship online 1-year course for dental practice managers and dental practice owners to learn how to very successfully manage your dental practice is available. Head over to dentalbusinessmastery.com.au to find out more information, and has information about any other courses that we've got available. Also, make sure you do jump onto my website, julieparkerpracticesuccess.com.au, and you will see a whole load of free information. There are articles, the blog, downloads, templates, a whole load of things that are designed to help you overcome any specific challenge that you've got going on in your practice at the moment. If you have any suggestions of topics or guests that I can have on the podcast, please let me know. Thanks for listening.